You've probably heard that most businesses fail before their first 5 years. Well, most homesteads and small farms fail before their first 2 years, which is a much faster rate than most businesses. I am a permaculture consultant and a permaculture designer, which means I've been to countless homesteads, countless farms, and I've observed the same patterns over and over again. Today, I'm going to give you guys the top 5 reasons as to why most homesteads and farms fail and how you can avoid those pitfalls and, actually have a successful homestead and a successful farm. Now, if you want a permaculture consultation, if you want me to come to your property and give you a similar game plan and heavily increase your chances of success, then hit up the email down below. And if you want a soil biology test, if you want things to grow properly on your property, then hit up the email down below saying you want a soil biology test. Now, with that being said, let's get into reason number 1. Reason number 1 is that most people have unrealistic expectations. They think things are going to go faster than they do. They think that their money is going to go further than it does. They think that they're going to be able to get their food system squared away faster than they can, or they're going to be eating 100% off the land just in general, or that they're going to be producing 100% of all their own food, or a large majority of their own food. That takes much more time, effort, and money than they think typically. And those are the 3 pillars that most people are working with. There's time, effort, and money. You can usually push really hard on 2 of those pillars, and then one of those is going to be lacking, or one of those is missing, and you can push really hard on the other 2 pillars. For example, you can throw in a lot of time and money with very little effort, or you can put in a lot of effort and time with very little money. So you kind of understand the point there. And another example of that is thinking that they're able to accomplish more in a day than they really can. Thinking that they're going to have every aspect of their food, that they're going to be able to grow every aspect of their food because they have an unrealistic expectation of how much time they have in a day. Things typically don't go as smooth as you think they will. So that's reason number 1, which leads me into reason number 2, which is lack of financial planning or income. A lot of these things, when it comes to a homestead, whether it be a tractor or just building costs or just maintenance costs and stuff like that, most people don't realize how much it really costs in the beginning. Now, it doesn't have to cost a lot. You can use a lot of permaculture techniques to hedge the amount of money that you have to work with. You can use a lot of, in fact, check out the book Scrapsteading that my dad, Billy Bond, and Matt Hunley wrote together. And it talks about using low income solutions to producing, a pretty profitable homestead. But you have to think outside the box. You have to use unconventional means. Another example is that my dad and I have raised pigs for 22 cents a pound before. How do we do that? Well, we weren't using store-bought feed. In fact, go check that video out over at Permapasture's Farm. I think it's one of the more popular videos. But we were thinking outside the box. We weren't using store-bought feed. We were using other people's waste streams to feed our pigs, and we were rotating them frequently, which costs time and effort, because it takes time to move your pigs and it takes effort and time to go pick up other people's food scraps. So that's where it goes back to those 3 pillars again. If you're planning on building a house, it's going to cost more than you think it is. If you plan on setting up infrastructure for your animals in preparation for your animals, it's going to take way more money than you think it will, and prices are only going up with the tariffs, whether they're still in place or not. Inflation, just general price of everything is going up, which is going to directly translate to your farm. You're going to spend more than you think you will trying to get everything set up to grow, either a business or your food. You might be selling your food is what I'm saying. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It's going to take way more money than you think it will. And then once you think you have a money and you think you've put enough, back and everything like that, something's going to break. The truck is going to break down. The tractor is going to break down. Your electric fence needs to be replaced, stuff like that. There's going to be some costs that you just can't plan for, and it's going to typically be more than what you have planned for. So and that's not to discourage you. It just leads into my next point, which we'll get into right now, which is reason number 3, and that's poor time management / burnout. And this is a bigger category. This kind of takes care of a couple of different things on your farm and the things that go wrong on your farm. That is starting way too big too fast. This is point 1, subcategory point 1 of point number 3, I should say, reason number 3. But that is starting too big too soon. So instead of starting that half-acre garden, especially when you have no gardening experience, instead of starting that half-acre garden and you're like, man, I need a tractor to do this, I need all this equipment in order to seed and to, put away the product before it goes bad, bad, start small. Don't start with your half-acre garden. Start with a couple raised beds and build up from there. You're doing a couple of things. You're kind of understanding like efficient time usage, like how to efficiently harvest, how to efficiently manage, how to efficiently plant and everything like that. And you're also understanding like, okay, how much of this can I do before I have to get into the next tier of everything and start buying the next tier of equipment in order to produce this much food? Like, how much food can I actually produce before I start dropping and sinking a ton of money into this particular system? Now, getting more into that time management aspect, most people, like, I have a notebook that I walk around with every single day. I've planned this video out on that notebook. Without that notebook, I will be going in every direction that day. I'll go every which way and not accomplish anything. Like Andy Frisella says, doing a power list, 5 critical tasks you have to get done that day in order to propel you to the goal that you're looking to achieve. Write down what you need to do. Write down the order of which you need to get things done. Now, things are going to, throw a wrench into those plans sometimes, but you learn to adapt, you learn to adjust, and you learn to just roll with the punches and still get what you need to get done throughout that day. I suggest doing 75 hard. 75 hard is a mental discipline program. Like, can you get done what you need to get done that day, even whenever you're exhausted? Like, my wife is going through it right now, and she's kind of understanding, like, wow, yeah, day 1 through 25 is pretty easy because you're not tired yet. But, day 50 of doing 2 workouts per day that are both 45 minutes long gets you to a point where you're exhausted. Can you still get done what you need to get done? That's where the time management aspect comes in. You don't have time to mess around. You don't have time to waste, and you need to get done what you need to get done. If you're wanting to get good at this, if you're wanting to achieve your goals when it comes to homesteading or farming, you have to focus and you have to get done what you need to get done, and that needs to take a higher priority than most other things, if we're being honest. You'll have far less free time, but you'll feel much more fulfilled by getting done what you need to get done. That's when people get burnt out, is whenever they feel like they're just spinning their tires in the mud. They're going hard as heck in every direction and getting nowhere. That's whenever you start finding like people victims of burnout and stuff. Also, starting too big too early, that's whenever you start getting into burnout. Getting too many animal systems all at once, that's when you start getting into burnout. Or building your homestead in an improper order. So instead of doing access, water, structures, and then food systems, they're doing temporary living conditions, and then they introduce a whole bunch of animals because they have land now. And anytime somebody suggests, like, hey, I know somebody trying to get rid of X and X animals, they immediately take them because they're like, cool, I'm trying to be a farmer and I got land. You're much better off if you wait on getting those animals and then purchasing them for a higher price later on, waiting till you're ready, than to accept the free animals at the beginning before you're ready. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly playing catch up. You're not going to get the permanent living conditions squared away like you think you would, because the animal systems take way more time than you initially thought they would, until you can start getting better and better at it, and then you can start becoming more efficient with your time management and everything. Everything has an order, especially when it comes to building a farm or a homestead. It all has a correct order to follow. Start with first of all, you buy land before you get animals. I know that seems pretty self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised. You buy the land before you buy the animals. You don't buy the animals and then try to find land. That just doesn't work out that way. And then you establish access, and then you establish water, and then your permanent structures. That's the order of which you do things. And then you start introducing food systems. And when you do introduce food systems, you introduce them small and slowly. You allow yourself to adjust to the workload of whatever new system you have before introducing another animal system into the mix. Otherwise, you're going to be doing what I said before, and you're going to be burning tires in the mud, going fast as heck everywhere, and not getting anywhere. So, leads me on to the next point. Now, this next point took me some time to understand, and that's not having any kind of community or support network. For example, before Hurricane Helene, I was thinking, man, the hardest part of permaculture is actually the people care aspect, is building that community aspect, and is dealing with other humans. That's the hardest part of permaculture and homesteading and farming, is that part. So I've avoided it for a long time. I've come to realize, especially after Hurricane Helene, that if those people did not have a sense of community, there would be far higher deaths in that, death toll of Hurricane Helene. Had the community not come together and helped each other, then there'd be a lot more people that are still suffering today. And in fact, all the improvements made in that area is because of the community coming together and working together. Now, a less severe reason or a severe example is like, I'm a permaculture consultant. I have animals. I also have a wife and a young baby at home. So they're not able to do everything that I have to do on a day-to-day basis while I'm gone. And sometimes I bring them with me, especially when it comes to festivals like Kentucky Sustainable Living Festival. That's up in July. That's linked down below. I'll be there. The wife will be there. The baby will be there. Now, in those times, I need somebody to look after the farm and look after the animals while I'm gone. That's where community comes in. I have a buddy named Ethan who comes over, he stays at the house, he takes care of the dog, he takes care of the chickens, he takes care of the pigs, and he takes care of the farm for me while I can't. And I would do the same thing for him if he were to go out of town and I was to stay in town, that I would be able to help him with his farm and stuff like that. So that's a very minor example and a very severe example, but you have to have a community. You cannot do it all on your own. Like another example is, what if you get hurt? Who are you going to call if you get hurt, if you have no sense of community around you? Something to think about. So put a higher priority on building community. And I'm not saying just team up with anybody just for the sake of community. Suss these people out, test them, see if they align with your beliefs and your values before just allowing them full-blown into the community. There's actually a game called Without Rule of Law, and we played it over at Midwest Preparedness Conference this past festival that I was at. We played it around the campfire, and a lot of mutual assistance groups apparently play this game to suss out the bad people within their group and accept like the good people within their group. But yeah, check out the game Without Rule of Law. Find out what people's answers are, and it's a good way to suss people out. I know a lot of people, mutual assistance groups failed after Hurricane Helene up in North Carolina because they were all talk and, they didn't really show up to help whenever their mutual assistance group or their community needed help. Now, this next reason, the last reason, is a very, very big one, and that's not focusing on building soil. Building soil can fix a lot of the issues that you would have on your farm or your homestead or your garden or your animal systems or anything like that. Focusing on, and this is where a soil biology test comes in, because we can look at your soil and then analyze what biology exists there and what we need to do differently or what we need to add in order to get it to a regenerative state. Like, your soil should be getting better and better each season. Instead, most commercial ags, most homesteads, honestly, and most small farms, their soil gets worse and worse each season. That's because they're not focusing on building their soil. And you should have the mindset that building soil should be the main focus of everything I do on the farm or the garden or whatever it may be. That should be the main focus. Producing food is a byproduct of having fantastic soil. Most people need to put more effort into how to make compost, which I have plenty of videos on how to make compost. So does Permapastures Farm. Most people need to focus more on how to produce good soil, how to make compost, and then they start thinking about like, what are some specific ways I can, gardening techniques or rotational grazing techniques. Not saying that those things aren't important. It's just you can lack on those other aspects if your soil is on point. So keep that in mind. Remember, if you need a consultation, hit up the email down below. If you want to avoid most of these mistakes, hit up the email down below. If you want a soil biology test, hit that up down below. Can't wait to see you guys at Kentucky Sustainable Living. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you.